Welcome everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join today's webinar, Going Virtual, Engaging Students in Online Learning with SaplingPlus, presented by BFW Learning Solutions Specialist Donald Tran. I'm your host, my name is Thomas Mena, and I am the STEM Marketing Manager here at BFW High School Publishers. Here you'll see an agenda for today's program, the bulk of which will be our webinar, which should take about 30 minutes, followed by a very light Q&A. After this webinar, I encourage everyone to sign up for our office hours webinar that's next week, where we will take a deeper dive into your SaplingPlus questions. You can learn more and sign up for that webinar by visiting bfw.com/COVID-19. Again, that's bfwpub.com/COVID-19. Scroll to the middle of that page and you will see links for upcoming webinars to sign up for that one. Okay, some other quick notes. There are many attendees, so everyone is muted and you will be muted throughout the webinar. We will be emailing a follow-up to this webinar with a recording along with a slide deck. So don't worry if you missed something or need to step away for a moment. During the webinar, feel free to chat in questions and our team will do our best to answer them through the chat or even address them during the light Q&A session at the end. Again, we are hosting that follow-up office hours webinar next week, same time next week. So I encourage everyone again to register for that. Even if you don't have any questions, you're sure to learn some additional tips and tricks by attending. So please do sign up. Again, you can visit bfwpub.com/COVID-19. Additionally, you can always email questions to us via hsmarketing@bfwpub.com, and you may also contact your rep, who is a resource for you. So feel free to reach out to them at any time with any of your questions or needs, even if they're not SaplingPlus related. They're definitely a resource for you and there to help. If you're not sure who your rep is, you can quickly find them by going to go.bfwpub.com/find-my-rep. So without further ado, I will pass the screen to Donald and we will get started.
All right, wonderful. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
All right, great. Thank you for the introduction, Thomas, and welcome to Going Virtual, Engaging Students in Online Learning with SaplingPlus. My name is Donald Tran, Learning Solutions Specialist with BFW Publishers, and here's a picture of me from my biology teaching days. No, I didn't always dress so lively. This was a spirit day and an opportunity to connect with my students on a personal level. Unfortunately, since many of us are currently faced with distance teaching and learning, we must change our approach in a multitude of ways. Consider for a moment the following challenges of online learning. Which are you currently facing in your virtual classrooms? Delivering content in a multitude of formats, now that our teaching methods are more constrained. Generating student engagement without the personal touches we bring each day. Providing timely and meaningful feedback to our students without the ability to conference with them individually. Or measuring student performance and providing interventions with limited visibility into their progress. As you may have guessed, you're likely facing all 4 of these challenges each day. Luckily, with SaplingPlus, we can manage students' learning path in a way that addresses these challenges and provides meaningful instruction in a virtual setting. This includes reading and annotation of the text and rehearsing content with worked example videos, pre-lecture videos, and technology tutorials. Engaging students with applets, dynamic figures, and interactives. Providing formative assessments and feedback, which is our strong suit with Sapling. And finally, tracking student performance with summative assessments. Along the way, you can rest assured that each component has been created with student-centered design, utilizing the latest research in learning science. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into SaplingPlus to see the learning path in practice. I'll be using our AP Statistics course for today's webinar, but our SaplingPlus menus and click paths will be similar across our titles. We can begin with reading and annotation. Students can access the ebook using the thumbnail image of the text on the right-hand side. When I click on the ebook, it will open up a separate tab where I can read through the e-text in a variety of ways. The first is by browsing based on the table of contents. So I can open up using the second icon here, a specific unit, chapter, and section within that chapter. I can also search for a term or phrase, which is an ebook specific feature. So I can type in using the magnifying glass here, a term such as normal distribution. And that will show me each of the pages in the textbook that contain that term or phrase so that I can easily jump to them. The third way I can browse through the e-text is to type in a page number in the bottom left corner. Right? And if this toolbar at the bottom is not visible, you can always use the caret or the chevron in that bottom right corner, and that'll open it back up for you. And so I can type in a page number, and that will correlate to the hardbound versions. Once I've arrived on a page, I have a couple of options as far as annotations. I can select any of the text on the screen, and there I'll see some options to add highlights or add notes, kind of like taking a Post-it note and placing it into that section of the book. As I do so, that information is going to populate into my virtual notebook. Here I can review all of the information that I've highlighted and taken notes on. I also have the option to print them out, which will generate a PDF file, or I can export into a word processor friendly format. There are also note sharing options available if you'd like to share your annotations with students or vice versa. And I can access those from the virtual notebook using the gear icon, where I'll see manage highlighters, where I can select which colors I would like to be shared as opposed to private in my notebook, and manage sharing, which works similarly to a social media feed, where I can provide my sharing link if I want others to view my notes and highlights in their virtual notebook, or I can view the notes and annotations of others that I am following. In addition to the notebook features, there are also accessibility features that are important for students to be able to access. And those include the ability to read the e-text even without internet connection. If I'm working on a traditional computer, I can access the gear icon in the bottom left corner of the ebook reader, where I can visit the download page for the Bookshelf desktop application. That e-reader is also available on smartphones and tablets by visiting the App Store on Apple devices, the Google Play Store on Android devices, or the Amazon App Store for any Kindle users. Right? Again, that app is called Bookshelf, and it is provided by our ebook host, VitalSource, which is basically the Amazon Kindle of textbook publishing. Rounding out those accessibility features, as you see in the bottom right corner, there's also a read aloud feature if students would require any text-to-speech type functions. Right. Moving back to our Sapling course, in addition to the student version of your text, instructors will also have access to a digital version of your annotated teacher's edition, right? So your wraparound version with teaching tips in the margins. It'll open in the same Vital Source Bookshelf reader with the same ebook features we've just reviewed for students. Notice that the teacher's edition and the other instructor resources in your Sapling page are grayed out, right? They're in a lighter font as opposed to the rest of the content in your course. And this means that they are hidden from your students' view. So we want to be careful not to make that visible to our students. To toggle the visibility of anything in your Sapling course, you can use the checkbox next to the item where you'll see the option to hide or show. If you ever want to verify whether something is hidden to your students, you'll see a drop-down menu in the top right corner, which allows you to switch to a student preview of your course. Okay? And that will basically show you Sapling as viewed through the eyes of one of your students. Right, so that's the ebook. And then after reading the content of our world-class authors, students can then reinforce their learning using student resources. And those are found either at the top of the Sapling course, or as you scroll down the page to our pre-built units, you'll also notice a link that brings students to the resources specifically for that chapter or unit. Each SaplingPlus title will have resources specifically geared to that subject area. So again, I'm using our AP Statistics title, but each course will have slightly different resources that are available. You can view these by chapter, or at the top of the student resources page, I can switch to a different view, which shows me the variety of different resources that are available. Okay? And these may include some resources that are interactive, such as our flashcards, which are often hosted in Quizlet, which comes with its own set of study features and games that students can use to visualize that information. Or my favorite for our AP Statistics course are our applets. Here we have our correlation and regression statistical applet. And this allows students to engage with the material, right? So we've had them read through the ebook, make notes, watch some review videos to learn in a slightly different way than the text alone. And now, through inquiry and exploration, students can reinforce those concepts. So here, I'm plotting points on the page, seeing the effect on the correlation coefficient as I add different points in different places. I can attempt to draw my best fit line and compare that to the actual least squares regression line, visualize our axes and our residuals. Right? And this allows, again, students to begin taking the content in the Sapling course and eText and making it their own. Right? So these types of resources will vary based on which title that you're using. Right? And then at this stage in the learning path, now that our students have been introduced to and engaged with the content, it's time to practice. And formative assessments are the most powerful feature we have in SaplingPlus. As you see here with our Chapter 1 unit, we provide each instructor with a template of recommended assessments, which of course can be edited to best meet your teaching goals. Right? So this template allows each of you to get started right away without a whole lot of setup. Here I'll access, for example, the section 1.1 recommended assignment. And we'll start our discussion of these assessments with a student preview. Then we'll come back to all of our instructor settings and things that we can adjust. Every question in our Sapling library is constructed to include feedback at 3 different stages. The first piece of feedback is a hint. So if I click on the light bulb, I can access a definition or maybe a sentence or two that helps me get started and oriented in the right direction. Then I'll take that hint into account and attempt to answer the question. I can check my answer. And in this case, I've answered the question incorrectly. And therefore, I'm able to see the next layer of feedback, which is wrong answer specific, or in other words, adaptive feedback. What this means is depending on the student's input, the comment that they'll see may vary. So let me take that feedback into account. I'll attempt to answer the question again and see if I answer it correctly. All right, unfortunately, I've answered incorrectly a second time, but notice I've answered incorrectly for a slightly different reason. And therefore, when I use the drop-down box here to revisit my first attempt, notice the feedback that I'm receiving in real time is changing and is specific to the mistake I'm making. And that's analogous to what we would typically write in the margins of a student's paper when we're grading traditional worksheets or book problems. Finally, I can test my knowledge here. Let's see if I can get the correct answer on this third try. Awesome. So once I arrive at the correct answer, then I'll be provided with a solution. So A is the correct choice here, but also an explanation as to why that's the correct answer or the process through which I should have arrived at that answer. And that's also very important. Sometimes our students arrive at the right solutions, but for the wrong reasons. So this is similar to, at the college level, what students would purchase as a separate printed solutions manual that gives not only the answer key, but explanations of each question. So all of that is integrated into a platform that's easy for students to work with and is also mobile accessible. So everything I'm showing today is using the Google Chrome browser with the traditional mouse, but I can also complete these assessments using smartphones and tablets, anything with a touch-only browser. Moving back to our instructor view of a sapling assessment, you'll see the ability to preview questions by clicking on the thumbnail image. So let's preview question 2. And as I preview questions as an instructor, I don't have to go through that guess and check process in order to see the feedback that is authored into it. Here I can use the toggle switch in the top right that says show feedback to easily view the solution or any of the wrong answer feedback options. And notice as these choices are changing, so too does the comment that students would receive. From the same view, I can also remove questions from the set. Remember, we're starting with a pre-built set here. So if there's a question I don't want my students to complete, I can remove it. Or I can slide over here to the question bank and add additional questions. Or if I was starting with a blank assessment, I can choose those questions individually from the bank. So I'll open up based on the table of contents, and we'll go to section 1.1, where you'll see some questions that are currently part of the assignment, while others you can easily preview and add, or use the checkboxes to add multiple questions at the same time. Additionally, we can, from the Assessment tab, modify our grading settings. Our grading settings will determine how our students are going to be interacting with the assessment. There are a couple of different pre-built grading policies that you can choose from, and each is explained down below. Or if you scroll past those, you'll see the ability to create your own custom grading policies. And that will reveal all of the available options you have. Moving down the first column, you'll see the first setting is homework, which means immediate feedback, as we are just reviewing together, versus quiz mode, which gives students one attempt per question, and students will be able to see their progress or performance only after the due date passes. If we're using homework mode, we can adjust the number of attempts that students have on each question, as well as the percentage penalty for each incorrect answer attempt. So the way our scoring works, we're scoring every single attempt of every single question, and a student's grade on an assessment overall is made up of their average across each question. We also have the ability to add in a grace period or a late penalty, depending on whether we want to deduct points for late work. We can apply time limits to our assignments, which is especially great for AP courses, and a few other settings, including the ability to randomize the order of the questions that students are seeing, so no one can create an answer key. The best part is you can name your grading policy. For example, Mr. Tran's policy. And that makes it easy to apply that same set of expectations across multiple assignments in your Sapling course. From the activities and due dates menu, you'll be able to see that in action. Right, so here we can see a list of all of the assessments in my class, the grading policy I want to apply, whether that's a default policy or whether that's one that I've customized. You'll see the ability to add a due date. That's how we assign an activity for students to complete. And a few other options, such as the visibility of the assignment. Can students see it on their Sapling page? An optional availability, which sets a date that students can first access the assignment. So based on your syllabus, you can really set up all of your assignments to automatically open and automatically close on dates and times that you choose. If we scroll to the right-hand side, you'll also see the ability to add individual or group extensions to those deadlines. So I would just find the row that the assignment is located on and click on the 0 to choose one or more students from the list to provide that change of due date to. All the way on the left-hand side, you'll also see the choose all option. Right, but again, keep in mind that we want to keep instructor resources invisible to students. So be careful as far as toggling visibility with that choose all option. We want to make sure things that are protected remain protected. To return back to your Sapling course, you can always click on the breadcrumbs at the top of the screen, and that will bring you back. Right? Notice the activities and due dates menu that we were just viewing is found in the top left corner, and it's the first option in your toolbar. Right, so we talked about reading and providing that content. We've assigned an assessment to our students. Now let's take a look at how we visualize and analyze their performance. For that, I'm going to pull over a populated gradebook. And notice these are the same tabs we were just interacting with from our section 1.1 assessment. And the fourth tab, responses, is where we would go to visualize our students' performance. And this gives us three options. The first is the question overview, or in other words, item analysis. With the question overview, I can scroll through each of the questions that were part of this set, and the green and red bars would indicate the proportion of students who answered correctly and incorrectly. And as importantly, I can see which answer choices those students made. For example, for question 5, I have 3 students who all chose choice B and 5 students who chose choice D. So there might be a misconception or a common misunderstanding that my students are having that I can address with them based on the information in this question overview. The next option within the Responses tab is the Performance Overview. The Performance Overview is going to show not only right and wrong answers, but also the number of attempts that students required in order to arrive at those answers. Shades of lighter green and yellow, for example, would indicate that students did arrive at the correct answer, but it took them more tries, more pieces of feedback in order to arrive there. So it might be something I want to reinforce with my students that our question overview alone may not have revealed. And so I can scan down a column and look for any of those cases. Lastly, if I want to get the finest level of detail, I can click on an individual student's name from that page and be brought into their assignment exactly the way it would appear for them. Meaning, I can review every single attempt and every piece of feedback that that student received along the way. Kind of like reviewing that student's notebook, even though we're working in a digital environment. And so again, our formative assessments and our analysis of those assessments, that's our strongest suit when it comes to our Sapling courses. And so we talked about how to get students into the content through reading and the various multimedia resources we have, how to engage students using tools like applets and dynamic figures, and how to assess our students and analyze their performance. So let's recap what we've covered today. When it comes to reading and annotation, the reason why many of you choose our company is that we have world-class authors and editors. We want to make sure our students are able to access that content through the ebook. And luckily, that includes features such as on or offline reading, options for highlighting, note-taking and sharing of those notes and highlights, text-to-speech features, and different callouts throughout the book with teaching tips such as AP exam tips. Next, those students can take the information they've read and rehearse using worked example videos, some interactive content such as flashcards and pre-lecture videos in our physics courses, worked problems and exercises, and all of those videos complete with closed captioning, as well as technology tutorials for courses that are still using the graphing calculators. Then students can engage with that content by applying what they've learned. Right? And again, these will vary based on the subject or course that you're teaching, but the main goal is to get students to learn through inquiry and exploration and deepen that learning of the prior concepts. Right? So here's one of my favorites from our chemistry course, a lab interactive that teaches students about density. Right? Other features would be our dynamic figures in our calculus courses, and for environmental science and economics, we have our learning curve adaptive quizzing engine. Then we have assessments for learning, or formative assessments, that provide opportunities for students to practice and access really valuable and specific feedback. So this includes for every question in our library, hints, targeted feedback, and detailed solutions. Instructors start with pre-built assessments to give you a starting point, but then you can customize those by swapping questions, changing your grading policies. And keep in mind that those questions are mobile accessible as well. Lastly, we monitor our students' progress, make sure that they have met our learning targets through our question and performance overviews, as well as a fully exportable gradebook if you needed to get that information into your own school's online gradebook system. So where do we go from here? You have additional support for our going virtual process at our COVID-19 landing page, as Thomas had mentioned earlier in the presentation. You'll also receive a recording and this slide deck so that you can reference any part of our conversation. But as follow-up, we have our office hours question and answer session specific to our Sapling courses, and that will be held next Thursday at the same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, with Tina McCoskey of our client success team, who is also on the call today. She may have been answering some of your questions that you've been typing into the chat. An invite will automatically be sent to all of the attendees today, so look for that, and please sign up for that session if you would like to join. As far as self-service, you can visit our support page at bfwpub.com/support. And at our online support community, you'll find knowledge articles and tutorials to help you help guide you through any of the processes or features of Sapling. And those pages come complete with text instructions, screenshots, and videos as appropriate. The online support community is also how you can get in touch with customer support if anything goes wrong in your online experience. And then lastly, we offer throughout the year implementation training through our online scheduling link at go.oncehub.com/highschool, where you can sign up for one-on-one or group training with instructors, and that will be held through Zoom meetings. So you can easily choose the date and time that syncs with our team's schedules, and we can meet with you to go over your exact course goals and needs. All right, so I'll leave you all with a personal story. Each year, my friends and I travel to the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York, and we hike one or more of their famous 46 high peaks, which are mountains that are about 4,000 vertical feet. And going virtual with our students is a monumental, you may even say a mountainous task for all of us. But luckily, BFW and SaplingPlus will help you reach the summit. Let our world-class author content and pre-built course templates serve as your map, providing a clear sense of direction. Let our multimedia resources, assessments, and course management features provide you with the tools you need to be best equipped for the mission. And lastly, let the support of our client success team, our online support community, and future webinars featured on our BFW catalog page serve as your guides to ensure everyone has the experts they can count on for advice. And so again, thank you very much for your time today, and best of luck with shifting your teaching and learning to a digital environment. We're here for you along the way. We'll also be staying in the conference for another few minutes if anyone would like to ask questions to our panelists, and I'll turn things back over to Thomas.
Thank you, Don. That was great. Just a quick reminder, we're going to be sending Don's slide deck to everyone who attended, so that should come with your follow-up. So if you're, scribbling down any of these links that we mentioned, you can you'll get them. You can also get them in the follow-up if you go to that later. But yeah, we do have the chat is open, so if there's any immediate questions right now, definitely chat them in and we can address them. But if not, be sure to join our webinar next week, our office hours webinar, where we can, we will take a more of a deep dive into using SaplingPlus and answer your questions then. Also, you might not have questions right now, but you might have them, throughout the rest of the week or after you watch the recording or what have you. So you can also join and ask them there. Don, one thing that did come in, I was wondering if you could quickly show us, possibly if you could show us again how you can hide the teacher's edition in SaplingPlus. I don't know.
Sure, absolutely.
Quickly demo that again. That question did come up.
So we can click on the checkbox next to any of the resources, and you'll see a toolbar up at the top that allows you to hide. Okay. Or a second option is from your activities and due dates menu. You'll see a column that is marked as visible, so that you can make sure that that is unchecked, which it will be unchecked by default. I was just working on the course a little bit before our call today.
Excellent. No, that was very helpful. So But yeah, it looks like that kind of covers it for the light Q&A questions. And again, just a reminder, everyone will get the slide deck, and I encourage everyone to sign up for the office hours webinar next week, but also visit our COVID landing page for other virtual learning support, as well as you can schedule a one-on-one implementation training at the oncehub.com email there to the bottom right. But with that, I will close it up here, and thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Don, for your time. This was great, and hopefully talk to everyone next week. So thank you and have a great day.